Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of HSP TV. I am your host, Barbara, and today I'm joined by the beautiful Daria Stan, and we are going to be talking about what it means to lose yourself. I've been looking forward to this talk because I think a lot of us have lost ourselves. I think we're born into this world as these perfect human beings, and we have these beautiful gifts, and then somewhere along the way to adulthood, we lose them. And if we're not careful, we lose even more than just our gifts. So, thank you so much, Daria, for coming to talk about this today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, I am guessing, based off our topic, that like me, you've also had the experience of losing yourself somewhere along the way.
Yes, I remember, have vivid memories of being very spiritual and weird as a small kid. Some of the memories I have very early on from kindergarten was staring into the sun to receive messages, which I now, as an adult, learned that that's an actual spiritual practice of energy feeding. Obviously, I was 4 or 5. I wouldn't know that, but I was
Mhm.
finding it as a game. And I would read people. Yeah, even back then, I was again probably 6 or 7, and I would ask people to draw trees, and I would read them based on the trees they drew. What does it mean
Oh.
if they drew fruits, if they didn't draw fruits, and how many branches the tree had, how far apart the branches are. I would read their personality based on the trees they drew. Again, to find out in adulthood that that's a parapsychology actual test. And I didn't know that back then, but I was finding it as fun. uh, I didn't have tarot cards, but I was using the poker cards to read in
Mhm.
cards and inventing my own meanings of what the cards mean. And all of these things, I was lucid dreaming probably all my life, so much so that I thought that's how everybody dreams.
Mhm.
I remember very, I don't know, innocently telling my mom, "Do you know that moment when you wake up in the dream and you change it?" And my mom was cooking and stopped and looked at me. "What do you mean wake up in the dream?" It was normal for me. I thought that everybody does it. It wasn't even something that I questioned that it might be weird. It was a
Mhm.
natural occurrence. But the whole thing shifted when I entered adolescence because my parents were very permissive of it. My parents were very supportive of it. As soon as I learned how to read, they allowed me. I read the Bible, history of religions, Egyptian things, whatever my interests were, even if they were weird in that direction, they allowed me to pursue them. I even went for weekends in primary school at a monastery to sit in silent prayer with the nuns, to learn with the nuns. I was mostly helping around the monastery and doing the silent prayer thing. Again, that's meditation. It's not, that's what silent prayer usually is. There's
Mhm.
no priest, there's no one saying anything. They just sit there in complete quietness. So that's meditation. I didn't know what that is.
Mhm.
My parents would take me to the adoration ceremony, another thing I loved. I didn't really love, let's say, the Sunday Mass church. That
Mhm.
wasn't an appeal for me ever. But this silent prayer and the adoration ceremony, where they would read a quote and then sit in silence for the 30 minutes and then have some songs like a choir singing and then sit in silence. That was amazing. Again, meditation. I didn't know what it meant back then, but now I
Mhm.
do. My parents were extremely supportive in this, extremely, extremely supportive, taking me to these things if I wanted to go, even though my mother would usually fall asleep. But when I got to high school, that's when it all changed. Because up till secondary, I kept doing my thing. I didn't even question if it's weird or not. I don't think I ever thought about it. It was just me.
Mm-hmm.
But in high school, I felt the need to fit in, and people were extremely obvious about the fact that I'm weird.
Mm-hmm.
From the way I dressed, from the way I talked, and to my interests. And that's where I started to give up on many aspects. And when you start giving up on aspects that make you yourself, it starts showing. I don't know how else to explain it, but even small differences in what you're reading, in the fact that I wasn't doing my meditations anymore, in the fact that I wasn't engaging with things the same way anymore, changed my whole output on life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was moving into an exaggerated, let's say, direction. I would cut my hair. I dyed my hair in three colors in high school. I would want to make piercings in the whole exaggerated direction just to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Skip school, stay with the classmates, stay with the people. It would be, yeah, it would be just a crave of fitting in.
And that's what lots of us have, right? So I'm very happy to hear that you have very supportive parents, because lots of us have parents that don't understand. And that's the thing that happened to me. I always had the gift of knowing. I knew things with absolute clarity, and then it scared people. I would come up to someone and say, "Oh, don't be sad. He'll come back." And they were like, "What are you talking about?" So that was not supported where I grew up. So in that essence, you're very lucky that you had parents who supported you in what you were doing. But then indeed we hit school, and especially I think our teen years,
Yeah.
where it's about fitting in, because if you don't fit in, you're either exercised or bullied.
I was still with, let's say, the outcasts. I wasn't bullied, but I was hanging out with the kids that were being bullied. So
Hmm.
I was still some sort of outcast, but I would still have to find my place, belong somewhere.
Yeah.
I wasn't with the popular kids, but I couldn't be nowhere.
Hmm.
So I tried to fit in with the unpopular kids, let's say.
Yes, well, at least somewhere where you felt like you could fit in. And yeah, the popular kids were also, I recognize what you're saying. I was too smart for the popular kids. The popular kids usually had boyfriends, and they were having, well, sixes, sevens, barely getting the grades to stay in the class. And I was having very high grades without a lot of effort. But I also didn't fit in with the brainiacs that also had those high grades, because their whole life seemed to revolve around school and studying, which is also not what I was doing. So I think it's especially in high school, it can be very difficult and very confronting to try to find your tribe, your group.
I relate exactly with what you say, because from one point of view, I was too high. I wasn't the, perfect 10 kind of girl. I was between 8 and 9. And, but the popular kids, like you say, the ones that would go clubbing and the ones that would hang out would see me as a geek because I would have big grades and I would always know what to respond in class and everything. But the geeks would be absolutely horrified by the fact that I would come to school with no homework, or I would completely forget that we have a test. And they were like, "What do you mean you didn't learn?" "Ah, I'm going to manage. It's fine."
Yes. Yeah,
And
it got to a point where somebody would ask me, how long did you study? I barely slept last night because I studied most of the night. And my honest answer would have been, I just, leafed through it and thought, oh, I know this, I know this, oh, this I need to read. Okay, I'm good. But I never felt comfortable sharing that with someone who said, I studied the entire night for this test. And then I would indeed get like an 8 or a 9 or something for the test, and she would get a 6.5, and I would feel bad.
yes, I know that feeling too. And I know the feeling of not saying what you actually mean. And also, I used to, even in school, I used to hide what I'm reading because even
Hmm.
though I wasn't reading, let's say, spiritual material anymore, I was reading Patrick Susskind, the perfume,
Hmm.
or things that were quite, let's say, adult
Hmm.
version. I couldn't read the biography from school. I found it extremely boring. I would read a resume of that and I would read my own books and I would read them in school. But
Hmm.
I would take from my mom's books those soft covers that,
Hmm.
some books come and
Yeah.
wrap my books in them because
Oh,
I
yeah.
wouldn't want people to know what I'm actually reading.
Yes.
And yeah, that has been pretty much most of my life, hiding aspects of myself.
Yes. Exactly, that's what happens, right? We start to hide certain parts of ourselves because we feel that that would not be accepted, or that that would make us be ostracized, or because that would be something other people couldn't understand, or because that would be something other people would judge.
Yes, exactly. And then also there's a need I to fit in terms of looks. Like I literally dyed my hair to look like somebody else. I remember at some point we were three girls in class, all with the same haircut. So even in terms of looks, back in middle school, I was wearing my mom's old clothes from high school. I was looking like the 80s. I was looking completely crazy for everybody. And I was super proud of it. I was considering it my unique way. But obviously, when I went to high school in the early 2000s, I needed low waist pants that could barely sit on me, and I needed crop tops and all of that, which never felt comfortable. They weren't ever me. Right
Hmm.
now, when I went last year to my mom's house, I brought back all those clothes that I used to wear all the time ago
Yeah.
because I was like, oh my gosh, I want to bring me back. Not all of them fit, not all of them look good, but it's the sensation of a time where I was still not fitting in. I was still me.
Hmm. Yes, yes, I get that. And I think a lot of us will recognize that. So if you're listening, watching to us here today, we would love it if you could leave a comment with your story, because I'm pretty sure we all have a story like this, because that's what it seems to be about, right? It can be very vicious, high school, where it's really about the way you look, the results that you're having in class, the way you act, the way you present yourself, or the way you're not presented. And I come from a very poor family, so everybody in my class was wearing Levi's and Nikes, and I was wearing hand-me-downs from my nephews, not even my nieces, because I'm the oldest girl in my family, so there were no older nieces. I was wearing boy clothes, and I got teased mercilessly because of it. And they make you feel bad about yourself. And if you then don't have a supportive system that helps you see the beauty of yourself, either at home or somewhere else, it's very easy to lose yourself in this phase of your life. Wouldn't you agree?
What's interesting that what you say is that So my mom was always, we weren't rich, but my mom was always, let's say, resourceful. She would make my dress, she would make
Mind you.
things, she would make sure that I look different than and unique. That was her way of putting it. But when I was trying to fit in, I would have most fights with my parents. How are you getting out of the house looking like that? uh, uh, I remember when I dyed my hair in three colors at the same time, my dad didn't say anything. He just literally fell in the car laughing, like he fell on his back laughing. So my parents weren't very supportive of the change. They
Mm-hmm.
were very supportive with me in the early years, but as soon as I started to change, that relationship started getting uncomfortable and we were having
Mm-hmm.
fights. And I actually ran away from home, but at 17. But it's interesting that I blamed it that they don't accept me, but I wasn't accepting myself at that time.
Yes, that is an excellent point. Yeah, and I get what you're saying. My mom was also awesome like that. She would make my own clothes. So it was either hand-me-downs from my cousin, or my mother would make me clothes, or we got second-hand clothes from the church. That also happened, but none of it was in or fashionable. And then you also attract well comments, if at best, and bullying at worst from your peers. But what you're saying is indeed a very interesting point because your parents were very supportive of original Daria,
Yeah,
but Daria in change was a little bit less. Um, well, I would not say worthy of supporting. I don't think that that is the case, but I think they tried to show you that you were already great the way you were. But the peer pressure at school can be so tough, so hard that that's not enough.
exactly. That's usually not enough. And usually it also hurts because, like I said, I think I wasn't accepting myself. And
Mhm.
the confirmation from them that you change, that you are no longer that, it's like now when we're doing therapy and all this, that you will know that the trigger is part of the issue. Well, that was
Yes.
a clear trigger. That was a huge freaking trigger. If it made me run away, it was quite a big trigger every time they would mention it. And honestly, my relationship with my parents only improved now in the last 2 years when I completely made a conscious effort to switch back.
Hmm. Yes, I can imagine that. I also know that you are from Romania, and I know there is a lot more folklore and a lot more tradition that can be seen as in the Western world as more alternative, or that a lot of people don't understand. Coming from the gypsy side, for instance, of Romanian people, was that also something that you noticed when you were growing up?
Oh, I have interesting stories about the gypsies. I love the gypsies. I'm Romanian. Most people in Romania hate gypsies. They are still terribly discriminated against, even to this day in Romania. But when I was born in the hospital, uh, they usually take the babies away, for 24 hours to give the mom time to rest. They still have that practice to this day.
Hmm.
And when they gave me back after 24 hours, they didn't give me back to my mom. They gave me back to a gypsy by mistake. And they gave the gypsy boy to my mom.
Okay.
And my mom started shouting, "This is not my baby, this is not my baby." And the gypsy didn't seem to mind. Probably she had enough kids at home that she didn't really too tired, too over it. She didn't notice that it was a different baby. She already breastfed me. She was fine with me in her arms.
Hmm.
And they exchanged us back. My mom had a very hard time breastfeeding me. But what's interesting is that in tradition, rich families would pay a gypsy to breastfeed the baby because it was said that no bad luck or ill thoughts would catch on the baby if a gypsy breastfeeds him. So in a way,
Mm.
I was lucky. I got breastfed by a gypsy without even intending to or being
Yeah.
rich. And also, since then, my mom always called me gypsy,
Hmm.
like a little joke
Yes.
about it. And there's a song in Romanian. My gosh, the sun is overpowering today. It's winter. It just decided. So there's a song in Romania who says, "Gypsy girl, you're beautiful." That's the chorus of it, repeated. And my mom used to sing it to me when I was little.
Hmm.
And I ended up in in 2011 to organize the International Romani Art Festival. I was the assistant of the director, and I worked hand in hand with gypsies. I went in their communities. I wouldn't have ever imagined that I would actually get there to learn Romani, to be around them, to see how they party. But yeah, I think life sort of got me there, and I feel it's quite beautiful in a way.
Hmm.
And from a spiritual standpoint, on my father's side, my grand, I think it's grand or grandparents, something like that, around the First World War, they had gypsy slaves.
Hmm.
And I think that me integrating in their community, it kind of breaks the generational curse from a spiritual point of view because I felt very accepted. I felt very empowered just to be there.
Yes.
It's
That
one
sounds beautiful.
aspect that started, let's say, even in 2011, started showing that there's something more to me than, you know, what I became, what I left
Hmm.
behind.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So then we finished high school. We've
Yeah,
tried to fit in, we've changed who we are, and then we go and find either a university or a college, or we find a job. It kind of depends on your life path.
I did both. I went to university in PR and mass media, and I also worked to support myself through university. And I worked as a sales agent in a mall. Now, in university, everything worked great, let's say. Like I finished my exam with 10. I could have gotten a job in PR right off university. But as soon as I tried and realized what PR is about, I was like, no.
Hmm.
That was it. Just no.
No.
And I was like, it's basically convincing people to buy things they don't need with money they don't have. Why would I be doing that?
Yes. And that's an interesting thing, right? Because something made you choose this study. And then eventually you discover this doesn't fit who I am. I think that also has to do with not being yourself or having lost yourself already along the way. I see that with lots of people that they choose a study and sometimes they finish the study and push themselves to finish the study because there's a lot of money involved. Sometimes they just give up because halfway through the study they discover I cannot even push myself through this. But a lots of us have also very strong drive. And that's also what our society was about for a very long time. You have a goal, you set your mind to that goal, and then you push yourself with everything that you have to reach that goal, regardless if it fits you or how much effort it costs. And if you're not being successful in it, then you just need to push harder.
Exactly, exactly. It wasn't very hard to push to get there because, I mean, learning logic, communication, and everything they usually teach in PR, it wasn't that hard, or dissecting commercials. But the actual, so the learning wasn't hard, but the actual moving into seeing an PR office, seeing what they do for work was so off-putting. And I realized in that moment that yes, I chose a field of study because it was trending. Everybody wanted to be in PR. Everybody wanted to do advertising and mass media. Absolutely, I think it was the most on high demand university that we had. I mean, there would be, I don't know, geography, philosophy, where with my grades from high school, I could have had a scholarship because nobody would ever go there. But I chose to pay thousands of euros on what was trending, on where everybody was going.
Yes. Yeah. Again, trying to fit in. And that's mind-based, right? So lots of us, we choose something. I had a friend who forced himself to go through everything to do with IT. First a bachelor, then a master's, then a PhD, because that was job security. People working in IT will always be in demand and everything's automated more and more. So there will always be a need for programmers and software developers and software engineers and all these types of people in IT. And then you choose with your head something that either gives good job security or that is high in demand right now. And we forget to look at what feeds my soul.
Completely. I don't think we even consider it.
No.
I have to say this, but it's a very big minus in the whole direction of how kids are directed in high school to choose a university. How even parents direct kids to choose university. I would, if I was to go back in time right now, I would give myself a year off. Just figure it out.
Yeah, a gap year, work something and do something or travel. What I regret most, I think, is that I never had the chance to travel in that time, to just go and do something and figure things out. But that wasn't something that was available. Coming from a very poor family, we didn't even go on holiday, so it was also not something that was presented as an idea or that popped into my head as an idea. And to even go to college and stuff, I needed to go and get a job and support myself to do it. And then you're studying and you're working, and that's already a big impact on you. And it's not necessarily bad, but it's you just you flow and you get pushed by life into the next steps without taking the time to consider, is this actually the direction that I want to be going in? Is this actually something that I enjoy doing? Is this actually something that makes me really happy? And I agree with you, that's for a large part also how things are presented, right? I don't know how it works in Romania, but here we get tested already at basic school to see where your intelligence level is at, so that we know in which direction for high school to send you. And then as soon as you're in high school and you indeed can stick to that direction, then you need to choose the right curriculum, the right courses, the right subjects to get into the study after high school. So basically, you already need to know what university you're going to when you leave basic school or middle school, or when you go into high school, so that you know exactly what package of courses or curriculum of subjects to choose to get you in the best course for that specific university study.
It's similar in Romania. In Romania, you have, let's say, in high school, you have to choose profiles. There's the humanistic profile, which would be mostly focused on languages and history. There would be the social profile, which would be obviously more involved in ethics and social classes. And then there would be the science and the real profile. Real profile is what I followed, it's maths and informatics, and science would be physics, chemistry, biology.
Mhm.
I went for maths and informatics because in Romania that's the highest profile, let's say. And if you do that one, you can enter in any university because you would have the curriculum necessary, you would have
Mhm.
enough languages, you would have enough maths, you would have enough science to get in any university, and I went for that one because I could, I had the grades, and second because I was keeping my options open, so I they don't have to force me to choose then.
I recognize that. We didn't have profile. Now we have profiles here, but when I went, we didn't. But I had lots of languages. I had economy, geography, history, biology, math, because I wanted to be as broad as possible because I had no clue. If people ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? My answer would be happy. I just wanted to be happy.
And that ain't that the truth? Like, ain't that what we actually want? Because we don't actually ever end up choosing a fixed career. We're always evolving and changing and developing. And uh, I even to this day, I don't feel like I can fit in a box. Obviously, I ended up being a diploma collector. Again, probably because I could, and because I wasn't satisfied with my university degree. I continued doing formal education in, adult education. I became a trainer of trainers. I became how do project manager. I did everything possible to take myself out. That's what I was
Mhm.
seeing. How can I take myself out? How can I do something on my own? Trainer of trainers, I'll do courses, I'll do trainings, project management. I will start writing projects, I will start finding finances. Everything to take me out of the field that I studied. I wouldn't go to university all over again. I wouldn't start it over, but
Mhm.
I needed a way out. So I started being a diploma collector. At some point I was a nonviolent communication facilitator. I did the whole training of that. Then when I had my firstborn kid, I went through the whole training of La Leche League to become a breastfeeding consultant. Anything that would make me work on my own. I
Mhm.
couldn't I couldn't fit in. It was, let's say, a realization that I won't fit in, but also a deep refusal of the corporate life.
Hmm. Yes, I recognize that. I am also, in that sense, a diploma collector. I now know that I'm a multi-potentialite, and I'm pretty sure that you're one too. So a multi-potentialite is someone who just has many different interests and is interested in many different subjects. And as soon as something interests us, we either buy the book or we buy the course or we do the study, and then we do that. And for me, because I didn't really know what I wanted to be in terms of a specific study or a specific job title when I left. I was sort of like a pinball from the universe. So that meant for me, I started working as a receptionist when I was out of high school to support myself. And then my boss said, "Oh, but you are way too smart to answer the phones here. Wouldn't you like to be a programmer?" And I thought, "What's that?" And he explained it to me, and I thought, oh, sounds interesting. So I had to do a test, and I passed the test with flying colors. And then they paid for my education to become a programmer. And then I was a programmer, and they said, "Oh, but you're also very communicative, and most programmers are not. So wouldn't you like to be a project manager?" And I thought, oh, sure, why not? They paid for my education to become a project manager. And then the whole agile working came to life, and it's like, oh, you're already a project manager, wouldn't you like to be a scrum master? And I thought, why not? And they paid for my education to become a scrum master, and from that I became an agile consultant. But I never really chose anything myself. It was always somebody else who saw something and then said, wouldn't you like? And I was like, sure, why not? Right? And so that's what I meant with the pinball of the universe. Because I had lost myself, I never really chose something that made me happy because I honestly had no clue. what made me happy. And when they explained certain things, it sounded good. And I thought, well, why not? But everything I said, why not? And then eventually you end up in a life, in a situation, in a job, or even in a marriage where it doesn't fit who you really are because you have lost sight of who you really are.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And it's very weird when you get to the point of realizing that you lost yourself because it doesn't come. When you are on the hamster wheel, you
You
keep
don't
going.
realize it.
You
Yes.
keep going on the hamster wheel. It's completely invisible to you that you lost yourself, that you don't know where you're going, that you're a pinball of the universe, that you're just taking what's in front of you.
Yes.
All of this is completely invisible because your life starts looking like same shit, different day.
Yes, yes, literally, yes. And we don't stop because when you look around, everybody seems to be more or less in the same type of situation. So without really consciously thinking about it, you just assume this is life.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly the assumption. You just assume that's how everybody does it. That's what it means. Keep going, blindfoldedly keep going. And when I look back and I look at photos of myself between those years and I look at things, I realize I haven't been smiling in 10 plus years.
Yes.
Even in photos where you would say I'm happy, there's no smile on my face, there's no actual joy in me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm completely absent from my own life. I'm looking at my own pictures of my life and I'm absent there. It doesn't show any, not only my personality to say that how I look. No,
Mm.
it's like there's not a person behind that face. It's like no joy, no sparkle in the eyes, nothing. Just a meat suit going through motions.
I'm happy that you're sharing that because for the longest time, people kept asking me, why are you so angry? And I thought, angry? I'm not angry. I didn't understand why they asked me this until I saw a picture someone took of me without me knowing that I was being photographed. And then I saw my own face, and that was when I understood why people asked me that. But I also vividly remember that time, that exact moment that that picture was taken. And I was feeling incredibly miserable, incredibly alone, incredibly unhappy. I wasn't angry. I was just beyond miserable in my life. And apparently that looked angry because when I looked at my face, I thought, oh God, I do look angry. But I wasn't angry. I was just deeply, deeply unhappy.
Yeah. And it also takes a toll on our health. I don't know about you, but until I had my second daughter, my second child, I didn't even know the amount of, let's say, deficiencies that I had in my body.
Hmm.
I had to be given iron through the IV directly, so because they couldn't transfuse me with blood because I was pregnant.
Hmm.
They had to give me iron every other day directly in the veins. So I was not deficient. They literally asked me, how are you still standing?
Yes, I recognize what you're saying. Iron deficiency was also one of the things I had. I had a massive vitamin D deficiency. At the
Same.
end of the summer, I was at a value of 23. Well, the minimum of your value should be 90.
Yeah.
So 23 at the end of summer when you've just soaked in the vitamin
But
D is beyond ridiculous. Massive vitamin B12 deficiency, zinc
same.
deficiency, B6 deficiency, and probably some other ones that have magnesium deficiency. So that's indeed what happens. But what I also didn't know was the toll it was taking on my digestive system. I last year, no, this year, this summer, last summer. I found out I was allergic to almost everything you can eat and can drink, even water. even supplements like fish oil or magnesium or things like that. And that is not, everybody asks me, how do you develop that so quickly? And it wasn't developed quickly. I think this already started at a very young age, and I see it like dominoes. Dominoes tip over, and they keep tipping other dominoes over until it reaches the point where I was this summer, when everything that you consume, everything that you eat and drink, is slowly killing you, because that was my reality. And that stems from way, way back. And I learned that also as an acupuncturist, that the large intestine and the small intestine have also to do, in combination with the stomach, about digestion of life. In
Yes.
the large intestine, you also store everything that is from the past that you haven't digested. It stays there and it festers, and it also goes into your fatty tissue. You store it on your body.
I used to fluctuate. Like if I look at photos in the same year, at one point I was overweight, and at another point I was completely anorexic. So within months, I used to fluctuate dramatically. Uh, I uh, I didn't realize it back then, you know. Again, it was something that was sort of normal. It was something that was just how it is.
Yeah, it just
And
happened.
yeah, and again, you don't question it because you go to work, you get fat. Okay, I buy clothes. Oh, I lost fat. I buy clothes. Oh, it's an
Yes.
autopilot that happens. That is, you see things happening, but you don't notice them. You're not aware of what it means.
The deeper meaning, you're not aware of the deeper meaning of it.
No, not at all.
No.
And what you're saying about digesting life, for example, I know you also know about human design. In human design, I have consecutive appetite, which means I have to eat one thing at a
Me too.
time.
Me too.
I can't mix them up. I used to do just that as a kid. If my mom would serve me meat with potatoes and salad, I would decompose everything, eat the potatoes, just the potatoes, eat the meat separately, just the meat. I would complete, even if she fed me a sandwich, I would decompose it
Hmm.
and eat the ingredients one by one. Obviously, I was conditioned out of that because, right, you can't go at a restaurant and start decomposing the burger.
Yeah.
And the whole deficiencies that I told you started happening. My teeth started getting bad. I started developing parodontitis again with the not being able to smile. The whole mouth situation really was showing that I'm not smiling. And even though
Hmm.
at one point it was because of my mental state, at some point it became about my physical state.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. The body keeps the score. If you're not using it, it gets rid of it.
Hmm.
And only to realize when I start to get back on my normal diet and just do things like I used to do. Yes, now without shame, I decompose a burger in the restaurant. That's that. I ask them to bring the salad on the side, and then I just decompose the patty and the bread. But uh, being able to eat in the way I enjoy food has already kept me at a stable weight for over 2 years. I did my blood check. I've never had iron on normal levels in my life, probably. And my parodontitis has healed. I mean, even the dentist said that it would take longer, but it healed.
Hmm.
So just taking in life in the way that we are, let's say, meant to take it one step at a time. Because it's not just about food, it's about people, it's about
Yes.
events, it's about everything. It's how we digest life, how we digest
Yes.
energy.
Yeah.
And just being mindful that I can't just jumble everything up, I have to deal with them one step at a time, has
Hmm.
changed so much about my health that I wouldn't see related. In the life I had before, I wouldn't see the two related.
No, exactly. And that is why you need to know who you are, the ins and outs of who you are. And human design, I combine it with the gene keys. They are tools that help you discover who you really are and how life best works for you. I'm also one with a consecutive appetite, and I used to love mixing everything together and then eating it mixed. But that's not the best thing for me. And when I look at life, things started piling on top of each other, and then I would get overwhelmed instead of just dealing with every single thing singularly, which is my appetite. And when you discover these things about yourself, life starts to change. Life starts to become better, nicer, easier, more effortless. You come into flow, your body becomes healthy, the balance gets restored, and it makes a huge difference.
Another thing I wanted to mention about the body, for me, it was very interesting because I noticed it, let's say, 2 years after. When I started my getting back to myself process, I was completely hating my body. Like I was at the point where I gave up buying clothes and I was wearing my husband's small clothes. And I just decided that I have to love myself as I am. And I
Yes.
started dancing in front of the mirror in underwear in a body I hated and
Mm.
forced myself to look at it. Now, the interesting thing that happened is I honestly don't know to tell you if I fell in love with that body or that body actually changed in something that I love. Because
I
now
think
I love
both.
how, yeah, now I love how I looked. Now I love how I present myself. Now I feel sexy or whatever in the underwear. But it was the forcing of myself to see it. It was the acceptance. And I think that's the very important thing that people don't understand. It's not in striving to become a better version of yourself. Is in accepting
Yes.
that the transformation happens on its own. You don't have the more I tried to be
Mhm.
something, the more I lost myself. The
Yes.
moment where I stopped trying and I said, you're gonna have to love that person in the mirror, whatever it takes, it's when the reflection in the mirror started reflecting me back.
Yes, and everybody watching, everybody listening, this is what it is about. It's learning to love yourself right now, with everything that you are right now, with the body that you have right now. Even when your mind looks at it and thinks it could lose some pounds, or I don't like the flabby bits here, or whatever, let go of that as best as you can and learn to love what is there right now. Because when you start learning to love and really embody the loving of yourself with all your flaws and all your flabby bits and all the things that you don't want to look at in the mirror, that's when things start to change. That's when healing starts to occur. And that's when you shift both your mind and your body in its reality to start matching more and more what you love. I love
Exact.
that.
Yes, that's exactly how I would put it. The image in the mirror started to match what I would love. It's
Yes.
not that I would try to get there. It's not like I set the goal. I didn't went to gym. I didn't do any of the things that I would do to get in shape, to feel better. I didn't actually in the period I started healing and getting back to myself, I made a New Year's resolution. I didn't buy any clothes for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The only exception would be underwear. I made mention that, but apart
Mm-hmm.
from that, I didn't enter any shop. I didn't buy any clothes because I wanted to really start to love what is, not what could be, not
Yeah,
cosmeticizing it.
exactly.
And that also helped because it forced an acceptance that probably wouldn't be. We mask a lot with clothes, we
Yes.
mask a lot with fashion, with makeup, we mask a lot.
Yes.
And being deprived of that consciously depriving myself of that helped the acceptance. And that acceptance led to the transformation I didn't know I was looking for.
Yes. I love what you were sharing. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation, Daria.
Thank you so
I've
much as well.
absolutely loved it. If you are watching and listening out there, I would love it if you would either share your story or the thing that was your biggest aha moment out of what Daria and I talked about today. And for today, I want to thank you for being a wonderful guest. I want to thank you, viewer out there, for watching. And I hope all of us are going to have an amazing rest of our day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.